Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Scene Snobs Network, but I'm not here to talk to you about the Scene Snobs. I'm here to talk to you about Max and Jason, Three Geeks Podcast. You will probably tune into the Three Geeks Podcast and be like, 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, there's obviously more than 3. There's like 89 million of us. We started with 3. We're like gremlins. We just keep multiplying.
Yeah, they fed us at midnight. They poured some water on us, and now it's like 78 geeks. But you can be a geek too.
If you like comedy, which we sometimes do, if you like hearing about movies, TV shows, you like hearing hot takes from Max and John, you like hearing somebody who loves most things, but when I get mad about a show, it's pretty entertaining, I gotta say. But no, we're the Three Geeks Podcast. We're just a group of friends that don't talk to each other through the week so we can have natural conversations on Sunday.
Yep.
We're like actually probably the worst group of friends because we don't ever talk to each other outside of doing podcasts. I mean, except for you and I, but that's because we're roommates. But, like Three Geeks Podcast. Tune in, check us out.
And have fun.
Yes.
Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah. And recycle your droids.
Hey everyone, it's John Orlando from the PVD Cast, and I wanted to take a few moments of your time to let you know where you can find the PVD Cast. The online home of yours truly, PVDcast.com, is a great place to go, but it's also available through all the major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, etc. There's also live broadcasts of the PVD Cast every single week. Mondays 8 p.m. Eastern through the Facebook page of the PVD Cast, and Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. through the Scene Snobs Facebook page. And no matter how you listen, please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. And with that, I will chat at each and every one of you later.
What's going on, everybody? It's Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob, and I'm here to talk to you about the scenesnobs.com. It is an awesome channel of podcasts, live pre-recorded shows each week that bring variety and just a lot of fun and entertainment to everybody. We have shows like the Scene Snobs podcast, we have shows BTB podcast, the Guapo Show, Sports Snobs podcast, PVD Cast, Jeff Dwoskin presents Crossing the Streams, the Three Geeks podcast, the Fandom Effect, and of course, we have probably the only Matlock-based podcast, Matt Talk. We have this and so much more. We have review shows, we have interview shows, and we have a marriage podcast called A Marriage Like That. Go check it out. Head over to thescenesnobs.com for a full schedule, all the links to everything and more. And hopefully you'll hit like, hit subscribe, and follow us because we always have new stuff coming up. All right, everybody. It's great talking to you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Hey everybody, it's CJ Graham, Jason Voorhees. That's right, Friday the 13th, Part 6. And you're listening to the scenesnobs.com.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Sports Snobs. I'm Pat. He's Kaz. You know the deal by now. Check us out on thescenesnobs.com. Check us out on YouTube if you prefer to watch, or catch us anywhere you get your podcast. If you want to just listen in, I suggest the visual experience is always better, especially when we have Scout Brian in the house wearing his Bruce Arians, I guess, maybe before he started coaching. He did some scouting earlier in his career. I imagine this is how he looked.
I got the gray hat, the gray shirt, and the gray beard. The barber, I'm going to the barber on Wednesday, so I'll look better next week. I apologize.
I think you should grow it out, personally.
Get the big, like, biker beard?
Yeah, go like Duck Dynasty or Biker, however you feel that day.
What about Captain Lou Albano and do the rubber bands in it?
You could do that, too. I would be scared of you. If I passed you on the street, I would probably be scared of you. Anyone who braids their beard is, I don't want to mess with that person.
All right. So the first thing I want to talk about this week, actually, I'll start because I do host you. I do owe a few from. So I'll start with one here.
Yeah, let's go one now, and then we'll do like one midway through.
Yeah,
And then
I'm not doing all four tonight.
No,
There's
no,
no way. I won't wake up tomorrow.
We'll do one and one. Cheers to that.
So, first thing I want to start with. Ooh, that's pretty good. What is that? Cucumber and lime. I like that one. So first thing I want to start out with, and I texted this to you earlier this week. I wanted to talk about James Harden and the NBA in general, okay? Because we talked about how James Harden was forcing his way out of Houston. And the NBA is pretty much the only sport where you can sit there and go, no, I only want to go to one team. And, you know, even in the off season, they talk about collusion. Magic Johnson can't get in a press conference and somebody say, oh, would you like LeBron James on your team? And he can't go, yes, I would love LeBron James on my team. That's collusion. But you can have players going on a banana boat in wherever it was, Dominican Republic, and talk about playing together and fix it all. And it's all fine. And then James Harden could sit there and say, nope, I only want to be traded to two teams. And I'm going to go to strip clubs. I'm not going to come to training camp. I'm not going to do all that. Oh, and then, by the way, the first 4 or 5 games in a year, I'm going to play like total crap. He didn't score 20 points in any of those 4 games. And then all of a sudden he shows up in the Nets and he's putting up triple doubles with 30 points. So I think it's a real shame that the NBA lets players do things like that. Like the Rockets got nothing back. They got Oladipo, they got a couple picks, but nothing that they should have gotten if they wanted to trade Harden. But no, Harden put them in a spot where he's not going to show up every day. He's going to talk about his team and say, our roster isn't good enough to win. I don't want to play here. I don't want this. So you make it so they have to trade you. And that doesn't happen in other sports. I mean, I'm just very I used to be a huge NBA fan. Played basketball my whole life. But it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting how the NBA is now. And it's just, oh, I want to go to a team with 3 or 4 other all-stars, not build it from the ground up. I'm talking Lakers, Celtics back in the 80s. Nobody said, oh, I'm going to go play with somebody else. It was like, no, we drafted these players. We're going to be a team. We're going to play. We're going to go at it. I mean, you can even talk about the Chicago Bulls. Yeah, they picked up Dennis Rodman in a trade, but that was a legit trade. And it was a risk because it's Dennis Rodman. But I just hate now how it's like the players behind the scenes talk together, they collaborate, and they make it so they make these power teams of 3 or 4 people just because they want a ring, because they know they can't win it by themselves. That's just my thought on it. And I hated Harden before it. I hate him even more now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think that's a unique take. I think everyone is starting to feel that way, unless you're the fortunate fan base of a team who ends up getting that big 3, right? And that's even debatable. Let's say the same situation happened with the Knicks. Of course, I mean, I watch, I'd say 70% of Knicks games as it is. But if I had a big 3 on the Knicks, if I had James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, although I don't necessarily like any of those players personally.
Durant, I like. Durant,
he's okay.
I'm a
he's
fan.
okay. But I mean, I would tune in almost every night because you just never know what's going to happen. Someone could put up 50 and the other 2 could put up 30. And like, it's just, I mean, you saw the first game they played, right? They combined for 90 something point. I don't know.
That was the second game. Oh no, that was the first game Kyrie was back. They put up 90, but they lost.
Yeah, they lost in double overtime. Was that the double overtime game? I'm not sure.
Was.
So,
and that's the other thing that I have a problem with. So Kyrie leaves the team for what was it, 7-9 days, whatever. And like the first 10 shots, they're like, here, Kyrie, welcome back. Here's the ball. No, where's the accountability? Where do players have to be team players nowadays? You don't have to be. It's like, we got to cater to your ego. No, I'm not a fan of that. I'm more of an old school. That's why we talked a few weeks ago about coaches that we liked in the NFL. The old school coaches that hold you accountable. You can't do that in the NBA anymore. Could you imagine Pat Riley? Pat Riley's sitting there, and James Worthy just decides to not show up for 10 days. Do you think he's starting him and going, hey, Magic, you got to get him the ball every play for the first 10 minutes. We got to make him happy. No, you're sitting him. You're making him come in the second quarter, play with the second string, and going, you left us. Guess what?
well, this never happened until, I don't know if I could say never, but it definitely didn't happen like this until Adam Silver took over as the commissioner. And he's obviously a commissioner for the players. He encourages, their freedom of speech and being able to like exercise those different rights on and off the court. But it's a double-edged sword, and it's not it's not, people aren't going to love the take, but that's what you get when you give the players not only this much power, but then this much say in everything that's going on. Not to say they shouldn't have a right to protest like that. That obviously they have.
I have no problem with giving the players a voice, giving them a platform to speak. I like that. What I'm saying is you can't let them sit there and dictate what team they go to, who they play for. Why is it okay for players to talk behind the scenes and say, hey, come join me, come do this? I'm a Lakers fan. LeBron James. He has his agent representing everybody that he's bringing to the Lakers. Now, it's great. I'm a Lakers fan. We got a championship last year. Might win it this year. But at the same point in time, I'm not as excited in the Lakers as I was back in the day. You had the Lakers when Kobe and Shaq hated each other. But on the court, they played together. Here, it's like, oh, no, it's just 5 buddies going to a park to play. And back in the day when it was, and if any of you guys are watching, it could have been 5 buddies of us playing in the park in a day. And if any one of us didn't play well, the whole ride home from that park, we were on that person. Now it's just, hey, let's all team up. Let's make millions of dollars and let's just be popular and do that instead of being successful on your own. Like, make a name for yourself. Don't sit there and be like, oh my God, I'm Kevin Durant. Durant's a different story. He's coming off an injury. But Harden, why do you leave the Rockets? There's probably a reason why Westbrook left. He probably did not like Harden. That I understand more than Harden just being like, I don't want to play for the Rockets anymore. I want to go play with Durant and Kyrie, my 2 buddies. So I'm going to be a total ass. I'm going to do everything I can so that the Rockets have to trade me.
But Harden signed, correct me if I'm wrong, Harden signed that like $50 million a year extension wasn't it like very recently? So like
2 years ago, I believe.
If you were that dissatisfied, you would have known. Like, you've been losing in the playoffs for the last 5 years. This is nothing new. So if you were frustrated then, like, what changed? Then now you demand a trade.
What it is you're allowed to sign for more money. That the way the NBA structure is, you can sign for more money on a player max deal with the team you're at than going in the free agency and going to another team. So Harden signs that deal for an extra God knows how many millions of dollars. And then he's like, okay, well, I have my contract. Now I can force a trade.
Yeah, that's what just makes it worse. I get it. I get the hustle part of it. Who would throw away $20 million extra a year or whatever it is? But
Hey, how many baseball players, how many football players, Peyton Manning, how many times did he restructure his contract so that the salary cap was less? You
look at Dak Prescott. He ended up going into this season, and obviously we all know what happened. He had a horrific injury, and he did not get the deal he wanted, yet he still played. And this is football. Like, if you're James Harden,
and he actually got paid more than what the deal he wanted was. So because he got franchise tagged, he was paid more than what his average per year was when he was asking for that 5-year contract.
Yeah, there's just a ton of players who, to your point, like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, even Dak. You could say Dak Prescott too, because he's the last one. If he even gets a deal, he'd be the last one of that big three. We could say, right? Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, and himself to get a deal. So I don't know if you're James Harden. I'm not saying he's going to feel bad about what he does, but at the same time, for those who view the situation and compare it to others, it's kind of like, dude, you were unlikable to start with, and now you're just unbearable. Like, as a player and as you're just an ass.
I liked him when he was a role player back when he played with Kevin Durant.
Yeah, on the Thunder.
He was a phenomenal role player. He would actually play defense once in a while. So he was actually a fun player to watch. But then, he wants, and don't get me started about, he can take 5 steps before he shoots the ball, and it's not a walk. The NBA is pretty much dead to me because it's not what I'm used to and what I loved.
Yeah, it's tough to watch. I watch the Knicks because they're exciting. They're a 500 team. That's exciting for Knicks fans. They didn't have 8 wins last year. It's truly embarrassing, but they didn't have 8 wins last year until probably over halfway through the season.
I'm a Devils fan, so right now 500, we're happy with that.
Yeah, you got to take it. Plus, they're like the number 1 defense in the league. But yeah, it's tough to watch. I watched a lot more basketball last year. I used to watch like even the late games. I have no desire to stay up and watch a Golden State LA game. Like, it's just, I don't know. Last year I was totally into it, which is kind of ironic because the bubble situation. But now I'm just like, I'll watch the Knicks and then I'm good. I'll check out after that. The Nets are interesting. I watched a little bit of their first game, and I'm glad they lost. I don't know if this is actually going to work. They're going to score a ton of points, but clearly they have no defense and there's no depth. It's just
no depth at all.
It's not going to.
I'm waiting
for a phone call. They're going to have to do something. Phone call.
They got 3 open roster spots. I'm waiting for a phone call. Defensive specialist right here. I can help out. Just don't make me guard anybody over 5'9". That works in the NBA, right?
Are there any players who aren't over 5'9"? I don't think there's anybody.
Then I guess I'm out of luck.
Maybe 30 years ago.
So the other thing, right? So the NFL, they got through the season with very little COVID cancellations, pauses, everything like that. But now you got the NHL and the NBA. Every day there's like 2-3 games getting canceled. So how is it that one league supposedly, and I know I talked to you about why I say supposedly in a previous podcast, the NFL was able to get through this and not have as much, but yet the NBA and the NHL, you have one team in the NHL, I think it's the Capitals. They played like 2 games so far. Like, I don't know. Like, how is it? And the NFL isn't in a bubble. So they're traveling. And the NFL is much more contact oriented than the NBA. I'll say the NHL is about as contact oriented. Maybe not. But I just don't get how one league can be like, oh yeah, we only had to, reschedule a few games, but other leagues are like, we got to cancel a week.
I can't speak for hockey, although you would think of all the sports, especially since they're staying local, that would be the least affected. But at least for basketball, you have to think that it kind of ties back to what we just talked about with the NBA. It's like the players kind of do whatever they want. a lot of that I feel has to do with that. Like, do you think these NBA players are going home and just going to sleep, waking up the next day and going to practice or going to their
do you think
hotel?
NFL players are? Do you think a 22-year-old NFL player making $3 million a year is going to go to play in the Atlanta Falcons, and the night after the game, before the flight, they're not going out to those famous gentlemen's clubs in Atlanta? You think they're like, oh, no, I'm better than that?
I don't know. So I think that there's more accountability player to player in the NFL than there would be player to player in the NBA. Like, I feel like, I don't know, like, for example, the Patriots, and that's an extreme example because nobody does they probably literally do not go out to any clubs or anything like that. But I just feel like
ankle bracelets. I heard Belichick puts ankle bracelets on them.
No, he called all the strip clubs in New England. He was like, listen, if you see Patriots.
Are there any strip clubs in New England? I don't know.
There's three. There's three. No, I just think there's more accountability. And the fact is, what's the average length of an NFL player's career? What's the average length of an NBA player's career? It's like the NFL, it's completely here and now. Like, I have to play this season. We have to win the Super Bowl this season because I might not be on this team next year. I might not be in the NFL next year. You see in the NBA, people hang around, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't even be in the NBA beyond like 5 or 6 years. But they're role players.
Carmelo Anthony.
And it's just, so I think that's part of it. I think it's part of it's mental. It's like, okay, I have to take this a little bit more seriously than I would if I was in another sport, baseball included. I'm sure we're going to see the same thing with baseball because, I mean, those players, pitchers, for example, you pitch every fifth day, right? I mean, players aren't playing every day. It's generally speaking, the livelihood of an MLB player, NBA player, NHL. I don't know. You would know more than I would. It's just longer than an NFL player. So I think that's part of it. Part of it is mental.
You still got Kovalchuk at like 40 something, still trying to play in the NHL. So yeah, the NHL, you have longevity. And you're right. I mean, unless you're an offensive lineman in football, they have pretty much 10-year careers if they're a good one. But the other positions, I think the average is 5 to 7 years. And that's if you're like a good quality one, not like somebody, you're not the third wide receiver on Baltimore right now. I mean, but yet Des Bryant's there, so who knows?
Well, it was
so we're talking about football. So one of the things from this past weekend that I watched, and it's bothered me for a while, but just in this game, it bothered me even more. That roughing the passer that was called on or against, I should say, Josh Allen. I mean, I get protecting the quarterback. I get being safe. You got a 300-pound defensive lineman running at you full speed. He literally pulled up. He was not down. He pulled up, put his hands up, and his hands hit the shoulder pads. Josh Allen goes falling to the ground. Boom, there's the flag. What do you want a 300-pound defensive lineman to do in that situation? Try to jump out of the way? I mean, he can't stop his momentum. He did not go forcefully into the guy. He slowed down, put his hands up. He didn't even extend them. If he pushed them, I'd even agree with the flag. He literally just went, oh my God, I'm going to hit you. Let me put my hands up. And the flag comes in, and I personally think that changed the result of the game.
It's the worst outside of pass interference, which I'll give them some credit for last year, although they should have kept it to some extent, being able to challenge penalties. Outside of pass interference, roughing the passer, it's the worst enforced penalty in all of sports, not just the NFL, in all of sports. There's no consistency at all.
I will say a travel in basketball is worse. Just say.
If they call it.
Which they never do. That's the problem. Yeah,
so I'm saying like actual.
The whole new move is a Euro step, which is a walk. Yeah. It's a total travel, but it's the new hot thing to do.
So with roughing the passer, you can't hit the player below the knee, which I get. I can respect that. I mean, I don't think any player should really be hit below the knee unless it's like from the side or behind. You can't even graze their face mask. You can't touch them 0.7 seconds after they throw the ball. You can't land on top of them with like 90% of your body weight. So, and then the problem is none of the refs enforce it the same way. Like there's been games I watched and I'm like, wow, how is that not roughing the passer? And then you see what happens over the weekend and you're like, oh, okay. Like, so to me, it's very easy. Like just why can't they just take 2 seconds to review some of these things? Like, it's sad, but the XFL was light years ahead of the NFL with the Sky Judge. So why can't you just employ something like that? Like, I'm not saying every single call, like holding, you're not going to do. Offsides, false start, leave that alone. But like for 15-yard penalties and pass interference, obviously, which can be a 60-yard penalty if you think about it, those types of penalties, automatic first down penalties, why isn't there some, I guess, way to at least review it? I'm not saying challenge it. Like in college, they pretty much everything comes from the booth. They confirm it. Even in the NFL, scoring play, they review it. Just take 2 seconds. Just take a look and say, it's fine. It's not borderline. Let's just leave it. Anything beyond borderline where you're like, well, if there's any second guessing, I get it slows down the game, but just cap it off with a time limit. Say, all right, you have 15 seconds following the play, because most teams aren't getting a playoff within 15 seconds following the previous play. Give them 15 seconds to call down to the field and say, wait a second.
Well, they are if the guy is like half on the out of bounds line, then the offense runs up and tries to run it quick.
And that's on the team if they find a way to avoid it. But they have to do something because these penalties are getting absolutely ridiculous. And the one thing I'll say is, especially with the hand to the face one, to me I just don't understand how that makes any sense. You see Derrick Henry's vicious stiff arms where he's not grabbing the face mask, but he's got a nice palm to Josh Norman's head and throws him to the ground with about as much force as you'll see from any running back in the league. And that's okay. It just doesn't make sense. And then you have running backs lower their head and initiate contact with their head. It just doesn't make sense how you can apply the rules only to the quarterback, because there's playmakers in the league who you can't afford just as much as a quarterback to have carted off the field due to injury or not available. Well, there's way too many superstars nowadays, especially at the field positions.
You bring up 2 great points. So the hands to the face, right? I'm a defensive lineman. I'm rushing. You're about to throw the ball. What do? I put my hands up to deflect it. Now my hands come down because I'm not allowed to hit you. So I got to stop. So what am I going to do? I'm going to slow down, put my hands down. And now, like you said, I hit your face mask. I don't grab it. My index finger touches it. Boom, penalty. The other thing is the stiff arms. I'll leave that one alone. But the running backs, wide receivers, whoever, if you're an offensive player going into the tackle, you're allowed to go like this. Could a defensive player ever do that? No, they're supposed to stay up. And I get it's a safety thing, but why don't you do it both ways? Why is a running back that's 210 pounds running into a guy that's 250 pounds allowed to put his head down, and that's safe? But a safety who's that's maybe 180, his stats may say he's heavier, but he's not. Tyrann Mathieu is not over 200 pounds. But he can't brace himself for the hit, but the running back can. And if the running back goes low and the defensive player hits his helmet, it's on the defensive player. I don't get it.
It's a rule. It is. They say it's part of the rules too. The offensive player can't do it. They just never enforce it. I think I've seen it once. I think it was like Mike Tolbert on the Panthers like 3 years ago. I honestly don't think I've ever seen it since then. It's just dumb. I get it. Protect the quarterbacks. But on the note of protecting quarterbacks, just real quick, how the hell does Patrick Mahomes clear concussion protocol in 3 days? This goes back to like your COVID comment. How does the NFL do it with COVID? How the hell does the NFL find a way? I get it. But really, the optics of this are so so terrible. And people will probably forget about it. They probably forgot about it already. But to me, it's like, if that's any other player, if that's Baker Mayfield, if that's any player on the Giants or Jets, like any player who's not a superstar.
You're wrong. If it's a regular season game, it's the AFC Championship, my friend. If it was a regular season game, he would be out.
I don't see how. I mean, we'll get to our picks later, but that's going to be an interesting one. It just boggles my mind that he was out for essentially the whole. I don't know. It happened early in the second half, right? So he was out for essentially a quarter and a half of football.
So did you see when he got hit and he got up? And at first, like normally, the refs would be like walking you right off the field if you got up, just like Mike Tyson hit you because he was stumbling. And at first, the refs came up and were like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" Okay. And he started going back to the huddle. And then finally, somebody from upstairs, the independent consultant, called it in and was like, no, you need to get him out. They were actually going to let him do the next snap.
It's just, I mean, that's got to come from above. Not literally in that game, but like, I'm sure the refs are told, like, hey, if you see a linebacker or a lineman or a running back a little dazed and confused, you got to get him out of there. But if it's a quarterback, especially, top 5 quarterback, ask him if he's okay.
In a close game in the playoffs.
Yeah. So, like, I'm glad the Chiefs won in a sense because it would have been a shame for them to lose because of an injury. But I mean, I don't know. It makes the game more interesting this weekend. I just don't understand how he clears it. I don't get it.
I'll do number 2 now.
Oh, there you go. Well, not on camera.
Why not? There'll be a sponsor soon.
That flew over your head. It's all right. What is that? What's the brand there?
Smirnoff.
Oh, really?
Good quality vodka.
I haven't done that since college. Cucumber. Oh, that's some healthy stuff.
Very good. Very delicious.
I'll have to give it a shot. Pun intended. So,
the NFL games coming up this week. I know we're going to do picks, but what are you excited about them? Do you, I mean, not just because it's NFL. Do you like the matchups? Do you think they're interesting matchups? Don't give away too much for your picks because we're going to be talking, but what do you think like that way? Do you, did you think it would be these matchups, or are you excited there are these matchups, or do you think they are good matchups?
Well, I picked the Packers, like just on my own. I kind of picked like, all right, Packers are going to make it. Chiefs are going to make it. I didn't really see anybody knocking them off. So, I mean, that makes sense. The Bills, I mean, they were the best team in football, arguably. Probably between them and the Packers. They were the best team in football over the last 5 weeks of the regular season. So it makes sense that they got rolling, they got hot. I mean, that's going to be an interesting game. I think that'll be the more exciting game. The Bucks Packers, so they played earlier in the season and the Packers got destroyed. Like it wasn't even close. And I hope it's not the case this game one way or the other. I hope these are close games. They both have similar lines. I think Chiefs are 3 and then Packers 3.5, but that's going to be the game where it could get ugly for the Bucks. I feel like going to Lambeau, like Tom Brady played in New England, and it was cold, but it wasn't Lambeau Field in the end of January, where you don't know what's happening, swirling winds potentially. Who knows? Like anything's possible. So it's going to be interesting. I give Tom Brady the experience, there to be able to deal with the cold conditions. You think Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown's not playing, but he played in Pittsburgh though, so he might know a little bit about that. But I feel like it's gonna hit them differently. That game is gonna, like I said, it could get ugly, but I think these matchups are for the best. You saw the Saints last week. It was almost like the Bucks just said, all right, Todd Bowles specifically just said, all right, we're going to play cover 2 and then press cover 2 man. And they couldn't do anything. It was like the easiest way to stop a team. Like if they just flipped the switch that they didn't do the first 2 games. It's almost like they lost those 2 games on purpose or made no adjustments just to kind of like, I know they didn't do that, but that's how it felt. It felt like it was so simple. So,
well, rumor has it Drew Brees has a torn rotator cuff.
Yeah, that's a terrible move by his wife. Terrible move. You're a cop out for him. Like the dude didn't say anything about it. I think he really wanted you to go out there and be like, well, he played so bad because his rotator cuff was torn in addition to having 16 broken ribs. Like at this point, you already lost. Like just let it go. If you're going to retire, retire. But I think the Saints, watching that game last week, if the Saints were to pull that off, I think the Packers game would have been a wrap. I don't think it would have been close. The Packers are just rolling. So I hope it's not like the first game, but I think it's definitely, these are the matchups people want to see and the storylines people want to see. You have the NFC, which is like the classic, the older quarterbacks. And then in the AFC, it's kind of like the new school, younger studs. So it's going to be an interesting Super Bowl. I'll say that. It's going to be like a 20-year age difference between the starters in the AFC and the starters in the NFC.
Very, very true. And what do you think about Rivers retiring?
I think he did the right thing. I mean, what do you expect to do? Like, if you didn't win a Super Bowl with the Chargers when you had those fantastic teams, the Colts, they're not going to make it next year. You would have had to have gone to it. You would have had to have signed a 1-year deal and then end up like going to Pittsburgh if Ben Roethlisberger retired. That's probably your best shot at a Super Bowl. What's the point of playing any further? I mean, go home, enjoy your 11 kids, dadgummit, and I don't know. I was watching this video. I was watching these like sideline videos of him mic'd up. I never liked him as a player because he just seemed like an ass. But then you listen to the audio and you're like, wow, this guy is really likable. I wish the NFL could have mic'd him up his whole like last few games here. I think that audio would have been priceless. Maybe
they did, and maybe they're going to do like a last dance of Phillip Rivers. Who knows?
I hope so. But yeah, go home, Phil. Go enjoy your family.
Who do you think replaces him in Indianapolis? Because they don't have a high draft pick.
Yeah, so Deshaun Watson's out of the scenario. There's no way they trade him within the division.
And with what are you going to get? In a 20th draft pick? That's the best draft pick you can get.
Yeah, they'd have to give away like 4 first-rounders in the future, like the next 4 years. It sounds like Watson's going to the Jets sound like one of the number 1 contenders. So you have to think Sam Darnold, he's not going to want to be a backup. I mean, Sam Darnold's probably still a starting quarterback in this league, albeit bottom tier. So I can see him kind of being like a gap, filling the gap in Indy. But then at that point, you have Jacoby Brissett, who's proven that he can win the league too. So I don't know if Sam Darnold brings you anything more than just what you already have in Jacoby Brissett. It'll be interesting. They might be able to snag, who knows? What's the dude from BYU? I don't know how high.
Wilson. He's going top 10.
Well, that's what they say. But then I feel like as like pro days and combines and all this stuff occur in private workouts,
might be a little small, so he might fall.
So it's possible that you could fall. I mean, they could trade up maybe 5 spots and get a quarterback. I don't know who's in front of them and what their quarterback situations are off the top of my head, but I don't know. There's not much out there that's like attractive. Carson Wentz, maybe, but they have a new coach now, so it's like, are you gonna keep Wentz and just keep what the hell is his name?
Hurts
on the sideline after he started for a few games? I don't know. It's not a great situation for any team that needs a quarterback, I don't think.
I'm going to say Fitzpatrick.
That would be hilarious. Hey, that's like one of the 3 teams he hasn't played for yet. So there you
exactly.
Go. Just keep going.
That's how he's going to go into the Hall of Fame. He's going to have every single logo on his bust.
I mean, it's
that's the only reason why he'd make the Hall of Fame is because he played for every single NFL team.
Seriously, I could see him on the Patriots. That would be funny. Bill Belichick and Ryan Fitzpatrick doing a press conference. Then he would have played for every team in the AFC East.
Yeah.
and he'll win a Super Bowl with them. Watch. Then he'll really establish his legacy as Fitzmagic.
So, Pat, any other topics before we get to the picks, or you just want to brag about how you're now?
No, one topic which I'm not. I'll be honest. When I listen to the radio, I'm not that guy that like wants the whole show to be about one topic. But obviously today was different because Hank Aaron passed away. So all over the radio, they're talking about him for hours, which I respect. I don't get it wrong. I respect it. Obviously, the man is one of the greatest players of all time, greatest athletes of all time. I just don't like when they spend like 4 hours on it and it just gets it's a little bit much. And they interview everyone about it. But I will say, certainly, obviously, one of the legends in baseball. We haven't really talked much baseball yet because I think we started this last year, like in the playoffs. But definitely a sad day for baseball. Like I said, one of the greatest players of all time.
One of the things I find interesting is they haven't announced the cause of death yet. And I think it was about a month ago, he did like I don't want to say a photo shoot, but it was like a press opportunity where he was getting the COVID vaccine to help other African Americans feel comfortable getting the vaccine. So I'm curious to see if the news comes out that maybe it was related. I hope not, because I hope the vaccine is safe. But it was just kind of, if it was a heart attack, if it was cancer, if it was any of that stuff, you would have heard it by now. But they're like, they haven't diagnosed the cause of death yet. And I doubt at 86 he's doing heroin. So I don't think that was it.
Yeah, 86. And I am not aware of any like major previous health conditions. So I did see someone float that out there on Twitter, and I was like, that would be something. That would really make things interesting from a vaccination perspective, because let's face it, no one cares when Joe Schmo gets a vaccination and he has some sort of adverse reaction. But if it's Hank Aaron, obviously people are gonna be like, well then, let's take a step back and
it won't get publicized as much. You'll get a 3-minute news story that somebody in Nebraska took the vaccine and they had an adverse event. But if it's Hank Aaron, it's gonna be like, legendary Hall of Famer Hank Aaron died of the vaccine, and it'll be publicized more. So the percentage of the potential fatality of the vaccine could be the same, but because it's a famous person that it happened to, now it's mass hysteria.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case. Could be purely coincidence, but who knows? One stat I did hear today, which honestly I didn't know because I haven't done too much research on. I'm not a baseball historian by any means. But they were saying, like, if you took away all of Hank Aaron's home runs, which is 765 or something like that, whatever the number is, if you took away all his home runs, he would still have 3,000 hits in his career. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Like, different age of baseball, but still, like, 3,000 hits. That's, not many players get there.
For average and power, he did both.
Yeah. So, big loss for the baseball world, and let's hope that it was purely as natural as it could be and not related
natural causes, and he just went away in his sleep. Let's hope that.
86, that's a solid life. I'll get nowhere close to that, so good for him.
I'll be lucky if I get to 46. Come on.
Keep doing shots, huh? I might not make it till tomorrow.
I don't plan on driving. I'll be okay.
There you go. All right. Yeah. Well, don't fall down those steps in the basement. Maybe you should just stay down there.
It's falling up. Falling up's okay.
That's
I won't
worse.
come back down.
That's worse. You
come back down.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, you did mention it. I'm on a bit of a hot streak here. I am on it. You doubted the Browns pick, and they brought me home. Probably big thanks to Patrick Mahomes' toe and head injuries. But they covered. I was nervous in the beginning. They fell behind early, and they managed to cover, and it was actually a pretty competitive game. Who'd have thought they would lose the way they did with backup quarterback on the Chiefs? But I got that's a 2-point pick right there, and now I am in the lead. It's 19. Is it 19-18? Is that what it is?
No, I got 1 point last week, so it's 2019.
So it's 20-19. Okay, I can't do math.
You got 3 points, and we were tied last week, right?
We were tied. It was 18-18.
So it's 21-19.
Now look at that. I was actually cheating myself there. I don't even remember my picks at this point. Sad. All right, 21-19. I'm up 2. That's they're going to make a movie about this one day. I'm telling you, it's going to go right up there with like Miracle. Remember the Titans, just true motivational stories about, people in the sports world. And I'll be one of them. I got to figure out who's going to play me in the movie. I don't know yet. I was thinking Leo, maybe Matt Damon. We'll see. I think you go first this week, though. So how do you want to do this? So we have to pick both games. 2-point pick, obviously, same rules apply. 2 point for the underdog, 1 point for the favorite. And then we said Super Bowl pick. We're going to pick ahead of these games, right? We're going to submit private.
So, no, I think here's what I'm suggesting now. We do both games now. We can pick the same team, but like if I pick the AFC Championship game, you have to give your AFC Championship pick right after me.
Sure.
Then you do the NFC, so that way. But the other thing I'm thinking about is we both do our secret ballot for the Super Bowl after this week's games. Then, in our lottery style, we both pick 3 prop bets from the Super Bowl. And all of the prop bets are 2 points each.
All right. I'll go with it.
This way we do our 4 picks. We can have a nice little show right before the Super Bowl. Instead of just like a 1 pick, hey, here's our pick, and you put up the placard.
I like it. I'm down with that.
So I know you sent me the picks, and now my phone isn't going to recognize my face because I got my glasses on. All right, let's see. I am down 2, but now there's a chance with the prop bets. I'm going to go Buffalo +3. I don't trust Patrick Mahomes. I don't trust the toe. I don't trust the head. I don't trust any of it. So that's where I'm going.
It's unfortunate because I'm being completely honest, and I was also going to choose the Bills. I'm not just choosing them because you chose them. I'm of the same mindset you are. I don't see, like, you can clear air quotes here, concussion protocol, but does that really mean you're 100%? Now, do you need Patrick Mahomes 100%? Probably not. You can probably take Patrick Mahomes at 65%.
I don't know.
Just because of everybody else.
With the Bills defense and everything, I don't know.
I just feel like there'll be some trickery up there. So they'll figure out a way to not let the game slip away if Patrick Mahomes is truly limited. I think the toe might actually be more of a factor than the head to some extent, but we'll see. But yeah, I was thinking the same thing. My gut tells me the Bills are going to pull this one off. Good thing for Patrick Mahomes, though, if the Bills do, if not only do they cover, if they win, Patrick Mahomes' charity of choice will probably receive a very large donation from all the Bills fans because that seems to be what they're doing this year. So don't worry, Pat.
They've been doing that for a while, actually.
Yeah, they started last year.
Was it just last year? I thought it was like 3 years ago they started that.
I think the big story was last year. They might have done it sooner, but I feel like it was a regular season. Someone beat someone to get them in. I forget how it was, but it's kind of cool. I got to respect it. Bills fans are absolutely out of their minds, jumping through tables. I'm sure Norm, your boy Norm, just jumps through random desks at work. He just walks by and just elbows laptops and
Norm does not fit the Bills Mafia at all.
You don't ever get an email at work and it's like an incident occurred on the third floor where a desk was completely shattered. If you know anything, you never get those?
No. And if it was, they would accuse me of it before Norm. I'm just saying.
All right. Well, good for the Bills fans. I'm sure
Norm's
Norm's dialed in.
He says he's from Buffalo, but he's really a Canadian. And he just likes Buffalo. He just likes the blue and red. That's all it is.
You got to get him on the show.
I definitely will.
You really do. And if they win, you got to get them to jump through a table live. It has to happen.
I will text him after this show is over.
There you go. All right. So so we both went Bills there. So over to the NFC. I am, although I led earlier with how it might be a problem weather-wise for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 3.5 is an interesting number. That hook could play a big role here. So I am also going to go with the underdog here, and I'm going to take Tampa Bay plus 3.5.
I can never go Brady. So done. That's all I have to say.
So,
and how many more do I owe? I think I owe 2 more. I'll just do one, and I'll give you the next one next week.
night.
Oh yeah, I will sleep well tonight, my friend.
I just got up from a nap, so I'm ready to go. I'm power hours ahead of me. All right, so we each have a possible. Well, I have a possible 4 points. You have a possible 3, but obviously
no. It's only a 1 point difference. That's possible.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying like final score after Zook will still only be potentially a 3-point difference, which is plenty of points to make up through the prop bets. So it's not like anyone's running away after this week. So that'll be interesting.
Actually, it's a possible 4-point difference.
If I'm up 2
and you win the underdog with Tampa Bay.
I got the underdog. You're right. They're the underdog. I'm thinking it's a 1 point.
Oh my God. Thank God you work in auditing. I'm just saying. Whew.
Hey, listen. Don't insult the math skills, please.
I won't.
I just forgot the score. Just cut me some slack. Jeez. Gosh, always hammering on me. Damn. But we didn't talk about, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it since we did our picks, but big fight tomorrow, no?
Yeah, I'm really excited.
You paying for
it? This past Saturday was a free fight on ABC, and the fights were phenomenal. I want to say 3 of the 4 main card events all ended in knockouts in like the first 2 rounds. Phenomenal. I didn't get to watch Wednesday's fights because they started at undercard started at 9 a.m. The main event started at noon, and Dana White's a big conservative Trump supporter. I think he might have done that on purpose, so people weren't watching the inauguration. I don't know, but I couldn't do it because I was working and I had to monitor a virtual program. But yeah, tomorrow the card looks really good, and I'm thinking. I shouldn't say I'm thinking. I'm hoping Dustin Poirier wins.
Oh, me too.
You being a redheaded Irishman, I don't know why, but
I'm so over him. It's overkill. The whole UFC is overkill when you retire and you come back and you retire and you come back, and oh my God, let's feel bad for him. He's been through so much. Yeah, I mean, please, like, dude.
I don't mind that side of it because, like we talked about earlier, that's a lot like boxing. That's how they hold out and get bigger contracts and all that. What I don't like is you're bringing him back after all of the issues that he had. So, and they do it with John Jones too. And I'm not saying I like that either, but you punch an old dude in a bar and they're like, no problem. You have domestic violence things. No problem. Come back. I just don't like his whole gimmick. And that's why I'm not a fan of him. I never was, to be honest.
He's calling for
fighter, but just don't like him.
He's calling for a 1 minute knockout. I mean,
Yes.
that's a bit more. Hey, if he pulls it off, I mean, I respect it. But I mean, and today he gets, was it today or the other day, he got a bottle of hot sauce from the guy at the friggin' the weigh-in.
Yep.
What is wrong? I don't understand. They're in each other's face, like just all the anger in them, and then all of a sudden he ends with a bottle of hot sauce, and it's like,
well, I will say that's the one thing that I saw different in McGregor this weigh-in. Normally he's like the in your face, he's gonna like want to fight you right on that stage. He was a lot more gracious, I want to say, and like appreciative of the opponent versus in other cases he was just like, I'm gonna kill you right here, and acted up a lot more. So maybe he matured, I don't know, but still not a fan, and I hope he gets knocked out in a minute.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I won't be watching because I'm not paying for this. I refuse to, especially if it's a 1 minute knockout. That's sad.
Chris is having it at his house. You could go over there.
That sounds like a super spreader to me. I'll pass.
Kyle's making wings apparently. I don't know.
I'll still pass. I don't want to try Kyle's wings. I'm good.
I mean, the way he would hit the plate against the girls, Jesus, come on. He walked more girls than anybody I've seen in the league.
Yeah, but it might have been the best pitcher in the league too. So
he probably had the most strikeouts, but for some reason, the girls, he was just like, "Oh, you're kind of cute. I'll walk."
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Later, come on.
Exactly. No, absolutely. Yeah, I'm good. I'll stay home. I'll probably watch some basketball.
I'll be right here watching from my basement lair. I'm like Batman. I just live in my basement and have, all this technology.
Yeah, Bruce Arians meets Batman. Let's
make that movie. Let's make that movie.
I think you got to run it by Bruce Arians first. Anywho, yeah, that's our show. As always, check us out on thescenesnobs.com. Check us out on the YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And like I said, visual experience, always a much better experience. Check out Bruce Arians meets Batman over in Brian's basement, among other fun activities that take place. From what I hear, I don't know personally. I've heard stories similar to the Loop. So it's an exciting. Real quick, someone in Carteret. Oh man, did they win the lotto or something like that? I thought I heard that on the news. I thought it was you. I thought it was a big winner.
I would not be here right now if it was. I have not heard that. I'll have to check it out.
Maybe I misheard. I don't know. I don't hear much good news coming out of Carteret, so I thought that's what I heard.
Usually murders and drugs, and lately there's been a lot of child porn too.
Okay, we're done. So. We're done. That's it. All right, that's a wrap. Cut it.
And that's our show, everybody. Thanks for listening. I am Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob. We always appreciate you guys tuning in and commenting along and everything else. Go check out this show or any of our other shows on thescenesnobs.com. Thescenesnobs.com. We love you. You guys are awesome. And if you would like, follow and subscribe to our social media. That really helps us go a long way. And please spread the word. Tell your friends. Have them come in. We love feedback and everything else. So everybody, you have a great day. Again, thanks for listening. Thescenesnobs.com. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.